Welcome to Tea Time with Shaylee and Amber, the podcast where we talk about all the shit that your horse wants you to know and what you can do about it. Amber is a horse trainer and a personal results coach, certified in Theta and Semitic breathwork. Shaylee is an animal communicator who also teaches communication. Both knowledge seekers with the intention of sharing that knowledge and hoping that we can encourage the listeners to do the same. Hey, welcome to today's episode with Jessica Lynn, owner of Earth Song Ranch, a company that offers holistic products for horses, dogs, cats, and humans. We talked about the importance of proper nutrition and the negative effects of GMOs, sugar, vaccines, and chemical wormers. We talk about effectiveness of homeopathic treatments for various diseases and the importance of taking a holistic approach to animals' health. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please let us know if you did.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a super awesome guest, Jessica Lynn. Jessica is the founder and owner of Earth Song Ranch Holistics and just a super cool, intuitive chick. She is kind of like you're like a one-woman show. I feel like anytime I order stuff from you, like you package it and put everything together, and it's always like a fresh little individualized thing, which is super cool. But we're super excited to talk with you. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, you're welcome. I have been looking forward to this. And you're right, we do blend everything fresh and we do package everything fresh. And I have an assistant and she helps. But when all of the herbs come in huge boxes, UPS loves it because their truck smells so good. So what I do is I then do some energy work on the herbs to release any negativity and to add healing to them. And then we blend them.
That's so awesome. So for someone who hasn't heard of your company or your work yet, would you mind just like explaining a little bit about what it is you do and the products that you offer?
What I do is herbal blends, mostly specific to a lot of horse health challenges, but I'm also a homeopath and I do homeopathic blends for dogs and cats and humans and horses as well. What else do I do? I do a lot of nutritional consults and I'm getting more and more and more because the bottom line is nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. And when people are feeding all these bag feeds, I'm not going to name the companies, and they can't pronounce what's in them, and they see 3 different versions of soy, I tell them, throw it out. Let's start over. So that's pretty much what I do.
That's awesome. I feel like I'm kind of getting to the point in my like human life where I've like have slowly started weaning myself off of like different things. And Amber and I have like a conversation around sugar every once in a while. And we're like, gotta cut out sugar. And I just messaged her because I'm like, oh, I have chronic fatigue and all this stuff. And I'm like, I gotta cut out sugar. And we're really big into really feeling like our horses mirror what's going on in our own bodies and in our own lives because, yes, they have their own little inner guidance systems, but sometimes they have no choice but to align with the frequency that we're putting out. And so I think it's really cool to bring awareness to like getting your horse on the right track, but then knowing like, okay, you've got to kind of do the same thing. Like if you're eating crappy foods and not taking care of yourself, like that affects them too. So I love that you do the energy work over the herbs. I think that probably helps like the human feeding them as well.
Oh, it absolutely does. And it's interesting because like you, I have felt for a long time that some of our animals will take on our health challenge. We just don't know that. Or they may take it away from us and take it on for themselves. And I had this very conversation with a neighbor yesterday. Both her and her husband are in really ill health. They're the same age as I am. And I mean, I'm 71 in robust health, have my ranch, run my business. And their dog just died of diabetes, which both of them have. And I went, okay. Yeah, that's not surprising to me. And they're not holistic in their thinking, so I really couldn't say anything. But it's like all the sugar stuff out there. And this is like my 3rd conversation in 3 days about getting off of sugar, which I need to do again too. I don't really have it in my diet. I do put it in my coffee, so we'll have to start getting rid of that. But it isn't always about the sugar with horses either. It's about the GMO in all of the feed. It's the GMO hay. It's all of that kind of stuff. I mean, horses have, eaten pasture and grasses and meadows for, century upon century, and they were all fine. What changed? All the hay is gone GMO.
Well, and that is something that I wanted to talk with you about, because I feel like in my work as a communicator and just through talking with friends and stuff, there is this big like awareness right now. I feel like the equestrian community, it goes through fads, like there was the mushroom fad where everyone wanted their horses on mushrooms, and then there's the this fad and a this, and or everyone's worried about limes at one point, or EPM. And I feel like there's this big awareness right now around metabolic horses, and people being like, oh, my horse is too fat and grass is bad and I don't know pasture, and people are making track systems. And I am very curious your experience with metabolic horses, your opinion around that. And like, yes, I totally agree with you, the GMO, but how do you support your clients on what would you say to someone who comes to you with a metabolic horse?
Well, I had one come yesterday. I have another lady who I've done podcasts with, and she's an energy worker and an equine massage therapist. And so this lady called yesterday. I wasn't going to take the phone call because it's Saturday. I'd like some time off, But anyway, I started talking to her. What are you feeding this horse? Well, I'm just feeding tough. Okay. Are you giving vitamins and minerals? Well, no. Okay. What's going on? Well, she's laminitic. She's rotated. Okay. It's all about the sugar. No, it's not. It's also about proper nutrition. And one of the things I find lacking with horses who have metabolic issues are magnesium, copper, and zinc. And I don't only tell people to look at their hay source, but if they get enough of that same hay, test it, find out where are your levels, and then let's build from there. But also I feel like, and I mean, we all need our veterinarians. We have stitches on horses. We've got all different kinds of things that go on that we really do need them. However, the big pharmaceuticals come up with a drug and then they go, how can we use this drug? And so the big deal was Cushing's. Now the big deal is IR. So what is the problem with the metabolic horses? Number one, it's coming down to digestive issues. If they have an unhealthy gut, they tend to go more IR. If they have an unhealthy diet, I see them more as Cushing's. My local vet, who I've used for 18 years now, when he got out of UC Davis, he's really funny. He doesn't say a whole lot, but all of a sudden he started sending me all these Cushing's people locally. I thought, okay. So I called up his assistant, and I've helped her horses, and their numbers, they're older. I think both their ACHTs were in about 140. So I said, hey, Shannon, just come on over. I'll just give you some of the Cushing's blend and some of the tea, and let's just, see how they do. And so she didn't say anything to me, and he didn't say anything to me. And so before she started him on the herbs, he took blood on both horses. And at the end of 2 months, he took it again. So their numbers went from 140 and both of them went down to 23. Now we changed their diet. We put them on our organic feed, Modesto Milling Organic Senior. And then all of a sudden he just starts sending me patients. And it is about diet. It's about, they have pasture where we live. So it's not about the pasture. It's not about the time of day that they're out grazing. It was what she was feeding him. And she was feeding him one of the big name brand, feeds that all of the vets seem to kind of tend to go to for low sugar, low starch. But with vets, they only get 1 hour of nutrition in vet school, and that's it. And who teaches that class? Either Purina, Triple Crown, or Nutrina. So of course they're going to push their feed.
Yeah, what's so interesting to me is that I have a mini horse, and he's on really good grass. Like they're out all night and they're in during the day. He's not muzzled. I do take him for walks all the time and stuff, but it's so interesting to me because he's on an all forage diet with a mineral, and then I muscle test for different herbs. I fortunately don't really vaccinate very much, and I can't wait to talk about your nosodes. I feel like I have like 10 different varieties of nosodes, and they last so long. It's like such a cost effective. I mean, I feel like my horses, one little bottle will last so long for them. So I'm super excited to talk about that. But with my mini, I totally agree that like less is more. And I have a lot of horse clients who are like, less is more. I'm on a bunch of different supplements, and a lot of people will add like a supplement for this, a supplement for that to try and like chase the symptoms, when really like just kind of scaling back and getting them back to neutral is so important. But I think beyond that, when you do have more of a simplistic diet, or you really have like a very clear understanding of what you're feeding them, it enables your energy to be like, this feels good to me. I understand exactly what's going into your body. I understand what it's doing and what it's for and how this herb is helping you. And it's not that you're just feeding like a substance, it's more like you're feeding from a place of knowing. And for me, I feel like that is like a really big key to nutrition as well, is that energy that you're putting behind the food.
Absolutely. And you have to trust in your own intuition. I muscle test all my guys constantly too, but then I also have a friend that I'll say, hey, I'm too close to this. Would you please muscle test or douse? Because I'm also a douser. I've been dousing for 45, 50 years now. And that's the thing. A lot of times we are too close to our animal and we want a certain answer. We might get that because that's what we want. So I depend on Ellen for those kind of things. And she does with me as well. But the cleaner we can keep the feed, the better. And, when this Cushing's thing started, I've looked at this for years and go, okay, why is this? What's going on? What changed? I grew up with horses. Okay. I've had horses since I was 5 years old. We had 88 acres. We had pasture. We had a natural spring. And to this day, Shannon and Stephen Peters now own our ranch. They only have 22 acres of it, but they still have the spring. I called my aunt up one day, and this is a few years back now. She's like 90 something now. And I said, Lou, when we had all the horses on the ranch, which usually numbered 40, I said, no one got sick. No one ever got sick. I mean, the vet came out once a year. If somebody looked wormy, they put a tube down their nose. That was it. And I said, what did we do? And she said, they had pasture. In the winter, we gave them oats and we gave them alfalfa. That's it. We didn't give them vaccines. She said, what changed was this. The pharmaceuticals started telling everyone that if you didn't do a chemical warmer every 6 weeks, your horse was going to die. Then they came up with all the vaccines. So the horses had no natural resistance to anything. And then we got Roundup. And then we got GMO everything. And it's triggered more often the horses than in anything else. And the other day, I don't know why I thought about this, but for the little kids, we had an old horse. Her name was Spangles, and she was 38. And she would grow the woolly mammoth coat. So she probably had Cushing's way back when. And what did we do? We just body clipped her and went, oh, well, and that's how it is. And now everybody's like, oh my God, my horse is not shedding. And that's because they have a pituitary inflammation. And people still think they've got a cancer or a tumor. No, it's an inflammation from all of the misfeeding for all of this time. And getting back to the Cushing's thing, it's not all about the sugar, which everybody thought it was about. It's about, let's balance the diet. Let's give them the nutrients that they need, including, the two that degrade the fastest once hay is cut is vitamin C and E. And most hay and most water, are imbalanced as well. I test my well twice a year to find out where are we, because we were in a drought. So then the calcium went up, everything changed. I had a horse that got bladder stones from that. Now we've had all the rain and we've got the aquifers filled. Now the water changed again, and people don't look at their water as part of the equation. And it is part of the equation. Whether you're on city well or whatever, you've got to look at what is in your well or your city water and then add to that. And the thing that I do with my guys is they get an organic senior feed from Modesto. I have a 28-year-old mini who has Cushing's. I don't give her drugs. She gets the tea and she gets the Sonny's blend twice a year. She's fine. No abscessing, no anything. Yeah, she gets that woolly mammoth coat. And I use a dog grooming tool to groom her, and oh well, So what? And then I've got my 20-year-old Arabian, who was a Tevis finisher. He laughed a year ago, January. I looked at him, I thought, okay, you're getting the crusty neck. We're putting you on the tea for a month. And being on the tea for a month, it all went away because, again, it's the inflammation. The pituitary triggers off the thyroid, and then you've got the imbalance going. And then you get Cushing's.
So interesting. So we have a question for you.
Okay.
Says, what about young horses and nutrition? I have a yearling that I have removed the commercial bagged feed, but she did very poorly over the winter. I've had to put her back on commercial feed to get some weight on her and some muscle. I've been working with a nutritionalist who is based in Alberta for the past 2 years. I had her on beet pulp, and I now switched her to non-GMO beet pulp imported from Europe, wheat bran, and some herbal blends, plus specific vitamins and minerals.
Okay, so are the vitamins and minerals balanced to what she's feeding? And why is she doing the bran as opposed to some rice bran meal to help put the weight back on, would be my question. And also, where do probiotics and digestive enzymes come in? Especially with young horses, if their gut isn't right, they get epiphysitis, they grow weird. And 28, 29 years ago, I worked with a Cornell PhD microbiologist. And I don't like to push any of my products, but we came up with equine-zyme, and that's because he was way ahead of the curve and he knew that horses needed probiotics, but he also realized they needed digestive enzymes. And if they're not digesting properly because we vaccinated, we've given chemical warmers too often, then they're not uptaking anything you give them. You could give them $1 million supplement and it would be pooped out because they never digested it. So my question would be, is the vitamin and mineral balanced to the area and to the hay and the pasture? Or is it just one that's on the market that you pull off?
Yeah, she says, I was following the nutritional advice of the advice of the nutritionist I was working with, and she was on a probiotic. I think digestion is critical. Thank you for that. And I guess she said the hay was tested as well. So if someone's going to take water to be tested, is there something specific, or is it something where you take the testing and like send it to someone like you and
No, I send them to Home Depot or Lowe's, and they have a test kit and they'll tell you where your levels are, and it costs you all of about $12 to $15.
Oh, cool.
And there's a little strip and it will tell you, what you're lacking, and what's too much in the water. So it's not a big deal. It's just, I think you can even order them online, they'll deliver. But it's super simple. And I mean, what we lack here is the nutrients for hoof health, which are the copper and the zinc. And I find that most Cushing horses are also lacking that. And once we get them on Arizona Copper Complete, which was designed by a barefoot trimmer in Arizona, that's why the name, it's good for all horses all over the country. They don't abscess anymore. Their hoof health gets better and they start feeling better because they're getting what they really need. But there's also methionine, threonine, those type of things, which are also for hoof health too. And horses start showing you a long time ahead of time that they're going Cushing's, and it's all different weird physical symptoms. It could be in a gelding that they got a swollen sheath. Could be in a mare that all of a sudden they have midline edema. Could be the little bit of fat pads that you go, okay, I'll just put them on a diet. Could be they get the crusty neck. Could be they have like these weird long hairs they grow for their winter coat, and you're going, what the heck happened with that? So they start showing us long before they go full blown. But once they're full blown, it doesn't mean they're going to be there forever. It means that if you change the diet, give them the right nutrients, give them some clean feed, that you can get those numbers down. They're no longer Cushing's.
I love that you're talking enzymes and the liver, because I feel like in my work, one of the biggest things that I feel is that the liver is not supported, and the horses are like, okay, my digestion is getting on track, but then I have nothing that is like offering my liver food. Like because a lot of people will do detoxes. So they're like, okay, my body's being detoxed, but there's nothing that's actually feeding the liver. And this is like such a great segue into your treatments, because I have used your Lyme's treatment and your EPM treatment. And I know that I was talking with you when so backstory, my dog got bit by a tick. And within like 24 hours, she got all of the symptoms of Lyme's. She had a fever, her joints were swollen, she got the bullseye, and it was everything. And I was like, what? Texted Jessica and I was like, SOS, my dog. I was like, I have a little bit of the nosode, but I need help. And so she sent me the Lyme's treatment, the Paratox, and an herbal blend. And I started Sage on all of this, and she was like pretty well improving within like a week. And then I was messaging Jessica because I was like, this is so interesting. Every single morning since she's been on this Lyme's treatment, she wakes up at 2:30 in the morning and she is just either sneezing or she's kind of like burping or whatever. And I'm like, it's really cool to see that. And granted, it was feedback from the body, so I lessened the frequency that I was giving it to her. However, I thought that it was so interesting because the liver chi peaks between like 2 and 3 in the morning, and it was like every single morning since we started the treatment, 2:30 on the dot. So I feel like the liver is like, it's so critical and important, and it's so overlooked by a lot of people.
Yeah, it truly is. And, most of these horses that come down with, let's say, EPM, it's because their immune system's been compromised for so long, and that has all to do with digestion. And depending on the breed of the horse and all of that, their intestinal tract can be anywhere from 75 to 100 feet long. So there's a lot of stuff in there that can get really unhealthy really fast. And all of us, need to do a liver detox too. But what I like to do, and I was taught this by Lydia Hibby actually, is you start with the horses, you do a 2-week dandelion leaf, and then you do 2 weeks of milk thistle. The dandelion leaf starts the clearing of the kidneys, and then that goes to the liver, and then everything goes out detoxing. But there's also some other things out in nature that really help too. And Vivo Animal, which is out of, I think she's out of Washington State, I can't remember. But anyway, she has some really interesting detox products for dogs and horses. She's a veterinarian. She was part of the Dynamite family. And she uses zeolite clay and sometimes bentonite, but she uses a specific zeolite, and that will also help to clear those types of things as well. And just, I put my guys on bentonite clay. Sometimes I look at them and go, okay, let's just go ahead and do that. And the interesting thing about bentonite is just a couple tablespoons. It's got a little octagon if you look at it under a microscope, and it pulls in toxins to the middle and then goes out of the body. And as humans, we can take a bath in that, and it helps us to detox through the skin as well. But again, digestive enzymes do support and help the pancreas. And getting back to IR horses, that is the one thing we did an IR blend, and I've tested it around my neighborhood because I do that often. Hey, you got an IR horse? Can I give you some product? Let's see how this works. Have the vet pull blood. Let's figure this out. But we know with diabetics too, they need support with their pancreas. That's all involved with the liver. And so we put a whole lot more digestive enzymes, magnesium. I'm trying to think what else we put in there. Just a few things. And this horse went from fat and flabby to fabulous in 3 months. And they're pulling blood again in 2 weeks. So I can't wait to see the results. Yeah.
That's awesome. You'll have to update me on that, because I'm like, feel like I'm super invested right now with all of my clients and their fat little horses. But I want to get back to the EPM, because that's actually how I found you. And that horse that I found you through is the one that I let go of last week. But so when I got him, he was extremely malnourished. He was probably like 300 pounds underweight, maybe more. And he had been treated heavily with like Rebalance and other EPM meds. And when I got him, he was like, he just was so strong in telling me that, like, yes, there was a protozoa thing, but it was so much about the rest of his body that like he wouldn't be able to go through more drugs. And so I started looking for homeopaths, and I found you, and I did your treatment, and he wouldn't be able to walk down my driveway without falling over. And by the end of the treatment, he was like a different horse. It was so cool to see. And he wouldn't take the syringe. And so for a month, I drilled holes in carrots, and I put the liquid in carrots, and he ate a carrot every morning. But for those who are not, because I really think you have like a little golden fabulous egg with the Lymes and the EPM. Like, I tell so many people about them, but can you explain for people who have not heard about them, what your EPM treatment is and the Lyme's treatment and kind of how it works?
No-sodes are homeopathic treatment as opposed to like a vaccine or something. So with the EPM one, what they do, Dr. Wessner is the one who pulled all the blood and the serum and things that you need. And what happens is you pull that and you send it to a compounding pharmacy and they success it down. So there's little nano micro parts of, let's say, EPM in those little pellets that you give the horse or the spray. But anyway, horses, if they are given the micro doses, their body will say, hey, I know how to fight this. And so you give it on a regular basis and the body goes, oh, I recognize that, I can fight it. And so then it helps to reverse the disease process and stop what's going on with them, including with Lyme. We do the same thing with Lyme horses. But with the Lyme, you can treat humans, horses, dogs, all mammals with the Lyme treatment. Humans don't get EPM, neither do dogs that I know of. But same thing, he took the Lyme horses that were in the East Coast and he pulled the same thing like he did with the EPM horses and just like he did with West Nile, same thing. And then sends it to a compounding pharmacy and then we have it from there. And I did the same thing out here with pigeon fever, which I don't think you guys get back there at all. It's more of a Southwest type disease and it's horrid. And we had over 1,800 cases in one community at one time. And what happens is the horses get really sick, they run high fevers, and then they get this huge balloon of pus in their chest. That's why it's called pigeon fever. You got to have the vet come, you got to lance it. So I called the 3 vets in the area and said, hey, I need to come when you're going to do this. I need to collect that stuff. And they're going, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, by the way, if you're pulling blood, could I get a little of that too? And I have a test tube and I'm going to put it on dry ice. And they go, okay, we know you. So what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I collected, I think it was from, well, 3 different vets, several different horses, sent it on dry ice back to Dr. Wessner. He had the no-sode made. We had a huge bottle made and I dispensed it to all the ranches that had all the most cases and they were giving it to the horses who had not come down with pigeon fever, and the ones who got the no-sode never did come down with pigeon fever. And there's a pretty famous ranch too up in Northern California that's connected to Pirelli. It's the Atwood Ranch. And they would get, I don't know, 50, 100 cases of pigeon fever a year because they've got a huge herd, they, breed. And so when Jeannie was the manager, she said to them, look, we can do this homeopathic thing and I'll find out how we can treat all these horses in one fell swoop and I'll bet you we won't have any. And they go, oh yeah, sure. Being the good old cowboys they were, yeah, we don't believe that stuff. So anyway, we figured out how to put it in the water troughs. And that year when she was there, there was only 1 case of pigeon fever. And they go, oh, that's just a fluke. So she did it 1 more year, no pigeon fever. And then she left that job. And so they didn't do it the next year. And next year they had 100 cases. So they call on a regular basis now. But that's kind of how no-sodes work. It's energetic, but yet it's a little bit of the substance as well. And if the horse's body knows that that's something it doesn't want, it builds up a resistance to it. And so then they don't get that, disease, virus, whatever it is. Same thing with West Nile.
Yeah, that's so interesting because the pigeon fever, I'm in California.
Yeah.
And we did have a couple horses here and you can isolate them and keep it clean and whatever else, but it's really the flies that are
Exactly.
you can't isolate the flies. So it's like
Oh.
such a difficult thing to like try to manage.
Well, I had a horse that had pigeon fever 25 years ago, and it was difficult because you're bleaching the ground they're standing on because they're going to be dripping all this ick. And I was having to bathe her twice a day with baby shampoo and betadine, where you make it 50-50 and you suds it on to try to keep the flies from spreading it to the other horses. But it does work. And we've got a couple cases about 2 miles from me right now going on. And that's really unusual because it's usually a fall kind of disease. So, and this is like, we're barely out of winter. We didn't have spring this year. So yeah, but it does work.
Yeah, and that's such a valuable thing too, because there were a couple that had internalized it, and then there isn't really anything at that point you can do about it, right? It's not, so to have something like that available That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, when they internalize, we give them really high doses. Well, we give high doses of vitamin C. You can take it up to bowel tolerance, and with a horse, it's 25,000 milligrams a day. So usually split it in half, 12,500, 12,500. With the internal ones, we tend to give vitamin E with it too. So, and we see, pretty good results, but man, it's bad when they go internal.
Yeah. We have a question. How often do you have to give the nosodes? Is it a certain amount of time, once or multiple times per year, or is it year round?
What we do is there's a protocol. So it's once a day for 4 days, once a week for 4 weeks, then once a month. And after the second year, we say, you can stop them. But if you have, let's say you have an outbreak of West Nile in your neighborhood and you haven't given the nosode for a while, then you give it once a day for 7 to 10 days. And then they're covered again because they know the body knows what it is. So it's pretty simple. And the little pellets just go in quick. But Shaylee, next time you have a horse that you're treating with the liquid, put it in apple instead. Because they're gonna chew the apple, they're gonna get really frothy, and it's gonna cross the mucous membranes, which is what you want, where carrot won't do that so much. And that's the only time I would tell people, you don't give nosodes on their feed. You've got to give it in the mouth. And if the horse doesn't like the spray, then spray a little bit on, especially a Granny Smith, because they are going to get so frothy. And I have my one baby Minnie who's now 9. But anyway, she sees her little bottle of nosodes coming. She starts licking her lips. She can't wait.
Yeah, my dog with the Lyme's treatment right now, she's so good. I show her the little bottle and she's like, okay, let's do it. Like she's totally fine. And I keep up with the Lyme's because we just are so heavily tick infested here that I keep up with the nosode for the Lyme's, and I just love it. I love that I just feel like they're covered. They have the antibodies, the tick gets on them. I'm like, you're fine. And I feel like I can put that energy behind them. But I'm curious, for people who do, get herbs either from you or they want to feed herbs, is there a proper way to store them? Like how important is it to store them in, I don't know, a cool place? And then also, can you speak a little bit to the quality of herbs? Because I know I appreciate buying from you because I know that they don't have pesticides and stuff, and I know that herbs can pull heavy metals. But for someone who is just wanting to change the diet for their horse, they want to do better for their horse, regardless of where they buy them through, how important is the process and the place that the herbs are from?
I get herbs from all over the world, but through one source pretty much. And almost all my blends are pretty much either wildcrafted or organic, with a few things that you can't get either of. The reason I've stuck with this company, and they were just sold to Monterey Bay Herb Company, is because they test from the field, but they test when they come to make sure there aren't the heavy metals, there aren't the pesticides, there aren't the molds, and all those things you have to be concerned about, especially the molds. I mean, if I have herbs in my feed room, they're in great big mason jars. So they're kept in a cool, dry place out of direct sunlight. And that's really important, because if you have them in let's say a glass jar, and you're hot and you got sun hitting it, the moisture, even though they're dried, are going to come out, and you're going to get a mold issue, and you don't want to be feeding that to your horses. Star West Botanicals is pretty good too, and they just got sold too. They offer some organic, and I do go to them if I have to, but I really, really like the people who have stuck with Monterey Bay too, that were originally with the company I was with. So it's important where you get them. I mean, if you can get them locally and they haven't been sprayed, and they're grown in as natural a places you can get them. I mean, everything has been contaminated with Roundup, let's face it. Even if it's organic, there's going to be a little bit or a trace, and there's nothing we can do about that. We just have to do the best that we can, with what we've got, and help our horses the best that we can too. But getting back to nosodes and all that stuff, what I find is that people in high areas of EPM where there's a lot of possums, I've had people do this, and it's helped the horses too. We will take the EPM nosode, like a little capful, put it in a 12-ounce water bottle, shake the crap out of it. And then I have the people take little water bowls out to where maybe the possums are out in the field, and we're treating the possums for EPM as well, hoping to prevent the horses from getting it. But I do that in my bird baths out here. We've had a couple cases of West Nile already, and I've got crows that come, so they come and drink out of my bird bath, and I've got West Nile no-sode in the water.
Oh my
So-
gosh, that's that's really cool.
So we can treat everybody out there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What are some of the most like powerful and safest herbs, would you say? Like your favorites, your go-tos?
Well, my go-tos, especially for Cushing's, is ginkgo. And rose hips are huge. And the reason they're huge is because the reason they're the color they are is they have naturally occurring copper and zinc. And I'm a big thing on copper and zinc. What else? Let's see. And I give handfuls of the cut and sifted rose hips in my minis and my horse's bucket and soak it with their Timothy pellets. And again, stay away from the bag feed with all the crap that you can't pronounce. I mean, my guys get between the minis, they get 1 cup of Timothy pellets soaked with flax because that's anti-inflammatory. They get equine zyme every day. They get maybe a handful of rose hips, depending on what I feel like they need. They get kelp to support their thyroid, and they do great. I mean, it doesn't take much. And, all these big companies, yeah, you might see all these artificial ingredients and artificial, vitamins. It's not what the horses need. They need to stay as natural as possible. And getting back to what you said about the mushrooms, they do work. And one of the things when the EPM horses are really sick, I refer them to Chris at Immubiome, because he has an amazing herbal blend, or not herbal, but mushroom blend with colostrum and some other probiotics that I don't use in my blends. And I'll tell you, it's called Spine and Nerve. It has helped so many horses to heal that were in such bad shape. And depending on where the EPM has landed in the horse, because it could be in the brain, it could be in the spine, or it can be in both. He also has one called Focus. And we couple that with EPM treatment, and those horses come back and they are so happy.
I have a lot of people who really like the Immubiome, and I have a little conflict with colostrum because I know that it works, but then I'm like, okay, well, I'm like a plant-based person, and I fully believe that the colostrum's for the baby cows, and feeding it to our horses, I struggle with that a little bit, even though I've seen results. Like I've done a bucket of the Spine and Nerve, and I saw results in my horses. Are there ways? Well, for one, do you know how they get the colostrum? And then how do you feel about, well, obviously you like it, but what would you say to someone like me who's like, oh, I don't know, like that's for the baby cows. It might help my horse, but is there like another way? Like, are the mushrooms enough?
Well, yes, they can be. The reason they put the colostrum in is to boost the horse's immune system so they can help fight. But I would say that you call Chris and just get the mushroom blend. He'll do the blend of mushrooms, and he'll do the probiotics. Yeah. And by the way, I put Immubiome together. I put the people together on that company too. I was having lunch with Mark, and he goes, I really need this. And I really need that. I said, well, you know what? Chris just left this other company. What? And I gave him the phone numbers, and the rest is history. And they've done really, really well, and they've helped a lot of horses. In fact, one of my my clients whose mom has been with me for 20 years, she's an eventer, and her horse had torn a tendon, and the eventing vet said, you're not going to Germany. And we said to her, hell yeah, you are. Here's what we're going to do, and you're going to follow this. And within 2 weeks, he was healed, and he came in 3rd in the world. Yep.
Super cool. That's awesome. I know a lot of people are like colostrum right now. I have an issue with it. I don't know why. So can they still take the colostrum and the baby cows get it too? Like,
they
is there enough to go around?
They do. No, the baby cows do get it first, and then they take the rest. And it is from a certified dairy that they get it. I know the dairy, and it's up north. But anyway, as far as colostrum, it's kind of funny because Dr. Getty and I went round and round and round for years about colostrum. No, you can't use colostrum with horses. Well, Dr. Wu disagreed, and he was a PhD, and I went with him. And I only have one blend that has colostrum, so you can pick either ecoenzyme with or without. And she went round and round. This went on for like 10 years. No, you can't do that. And then all of a sudden, oh, I found this new great thing. Colostrum is great for horses, you know? So it's like, okay, Estelle. But some do need it. They don't all need it. And it's not in huge doses. And I understand how you feel, because I had the same question 28 years ago. Well, what about the baby cows? They're not getting what they need. But I do know that it does help the many, and also it helps the horses that tend to get ulcers. Because some of the ulcers aren't just caused by stress, it's caused by bacteria, just like it is in humans. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all so interesting, and it's so good that there's so many people that are starting to explore just different options and be open to getting back to, I feel like, where we all started.
I know.
So funny.
I tell people, okay, here's the thing. The best quality hay you can buy, the freshest water you can keep giving them, and salt. But not adding salt by the tablespoon to their buckets. Give them a Himalayan rock and let them decide what they want. I don't like the other brand because they've tested it quite a few times and it's coming up with some lead in it. So I always tell people, go Himalayan. And again, we go back to copper. That's why the rock is pink. There's copper in it.
Very interesting.
Well,
yeah.
My Arab's obsessed with his. I get him the biggest one you can get. Yeah, we are going back to basics, and that's where you got to start. Let's go backwards and let's start from the basics, and then let's move forward and see what your horse really needs and go from there. And yeah, the over vaccination, the over chemically worming. I mean, even Horseman's Lab did a 18-year study on all the fecals they get. 83% are negative. 83%. Why is everyone chemically worming? Test it, and then decide if they need something. Do it with herbs if you can, and if you can't, then do ivermectin, which is so safe.
Yeah. So if someone wants to work with you, what does that usually look like? Like, what is it like if I came to you and I said, here's my horse, I just want him to be as healthy as possible, like what would a session like that look like with you?
Usually, I have paid consults where you get specific set time and date, and what you get is a 13-page questionnaire to fill out so that I can go through and see, what have you been doing, what are you feeding, when did this start, how did it happen, what does it look like, send me pictures. And a lot of times I'm intuitive too. I'll connect in with the horse from the photos and go, oh, okay, this is what I'm getting. Does that feel okay to you, or does that feel like that's the truth? And I'll get truth bumps, and then we go from there. Every horse is so different as to what they need. And I don't always just sell my products. I'll say, you need to go here and get that, or you need to go over here and get that. And I mean, there's another company on the East Coast, and they've moved into Texas now, called New Country Organics. And they also have organic feed, and it's pretty clean. And they do have one that's low sugar, low starch without the soy, if people still want to do the low sugar thing. So, we go from there, and then you have a whole month of follow-up with me when you pay for like a half-hour consult. And I always go over. I never stick to just a half an hour. It never works out that way. But the horses usually, you can see it, you can feel it, and you kind of know what they really need. And as Shaylee was saying too, a lot of people just throw a lot of supplements. I had one lady years ago, I'll never forget this. She was feeding 27 supplements.
Wow.
And she sent me the list. I went, are you kidding me? So I sent her an email back. I said, before I go forward with you on this, I need you to write next to each of those why you're feeding it, because she had doubled and tripled quite a few things. So it took a couple days. I get this email back. The farrier told me this one. My neighbor told me that one. The vet told me this one. And somebody told me that one. And then another person told me that one. I said, okay, let's just start over. Why don't you collect all those things up? And I know that cost you a lot of money. Take it to the nearest rescue and let's start over. And let's go simple. And we did. And pretty much it was taking the horse off bag feed, putting him on some equine zyme and putting him on a few herbs, and he did fine after that.
Mm.
So, we can kill them with kindness. They don't need all these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if someone does want to work with you, where is the best way to find you?
I go to my website at earthsongranch.com, and then you can look and see what I have. The FAQ section of the website's pretty detailed with, feeding recommendations, EPM. What else do I have in there? Cushing's.
Mm.
Oh, what else? Let's see. Mini. I have a section on minis too. Herbal warming your horse as opposed to just throwing chemical warmers. I mean, there's a lot of info, and people can do their own thing too and keep their horses well.
Wow.
But there's also, the consults are in the store, and so if they pay for that and they fill out their form, then we get going.
Well, awesome. That's like sounds like an amazing resource. I have a couple horses that I need to adjust things with, and then my little mini.
I love my mini.
Oh. Be spending some time on your website.
Yeah, just email me, Amber. Yeah, I have 4 minis, and they all came through rescue, and they all came with different issues, and yeah, they're all doing well. I've had Annie, who's going to be 28 this year, for 14 years. Yeah, she's the one with Cushing's, and I don't worry about it. We do what we need. And here's the other thing too that I'm going to throw out to your audience. So we only have the cortisol rise that causes the ACHT numbers to be high in the spring and the fall. Why do they feed pergolide all year long? What do they do for send all year long? They don't need it. The numbers naturally come down in the winter and in the summer. And again, I've experimented with neighbors' horses because they let me. And so a couple of them that were on Percend, I said, well, why don't we try this? How about give them half of the dose, and we'll do the sunnies, and then let's pull the blood in June and see where they're at. They were normal. So that we did it again the next year, and we did just a half a dose in the spring and fall as opposed to all year. Same thing, the numbers were normal. So it's like, why are they, drugging these horses with that stuff all year long?
Right.
And I haven't answered that question yet, but I don't know.
Yeah. I wish I was your neighbor.
My neighbors like me.
How do I sign up to be your neighbor?
No, we have, it's like vestibular stomatitis is going around Southern California. Okay. So we live in a gated community, and we're up in the high desert. And so these people go, oh my God, it's like this death sentence. I go, people, it is a pain in the ass virus, and we can treat it with vitamin C, with Mercurius V, which is a homeopathic, and calendula T. And they go, what? I said, it's a virus. Okay, it's a virus. So anyway, I talked to all the local vets. No one has seen one case up here, but a couple of my clients in Ramona got one of their horses, or 2 of their horses got it when they're herd, and I sent up the stuff to them. None of the other horses got it. So all these things are treatable. And again, get the horse's immune systems boosted. Feed your favorite probiotic, give them vitamin C, vitamin E, those kind of things. Keep them healthy, and then maybe they won't come down with stuff. Prevent.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. There's so much information in this little podcast, and it sounds like there's a ton of information on your website. So I'm excited to go explore. And I'm so happy that Shaylee got to introduce us and you to everyone.
And also there's, I think I've written 25 articles for various horse publications, from Natural Horse, which is now gone, to Holistic Horse, to Equine Wellness, to Hawaii Horse Journal, to The Horse's Hoof. And they're also on the website. And there's a couple podcasts. I used to do the Horse Talk Show in Florida. And I think her story was Sunny. I'd been doing this anyway for the Cushing's horses, kind of knew what I was doing. And then she contacted me one day. It was over Christmas vacation. I'll never forget it. I get this email from NBC News. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? That's just junk mail, or someone spamming. I thought, maybe I should open it. She was, I need help with my horse. He's my hard horse. He's 30 years old. He's going to die. Can you help me? And so the rest is history. That's why we call it Sonny's kit. And he went on for quite a few years without any drugs on the kit, and he did fine. So that's also on there too. And thanks for having me, you guys. It was fun.
Yes, it was so good to talk to you. And thank you. And if anyone else has any extra questions and you guys are watching, you can just drop them in the comments where we'll post this, and then we'll make sure that they have all your contact information so they can reach out to you if they want more from you.
You can also email me at earthsongranch@yahoo.com, and I'll answer a lot of questions.
Perfect.
That's not a problem at all. I love helping people. It's my passion. It's how I grew up. All natural. My mom was ahead of the curve. Well, thanks,
Awesome. Well,
guys.
thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You do the same.
Someone wants to know how you got your company name.
Well, I kind of plagiarized it. So, and I couldn't figure out a company name. And so I grew up in Del Mar on the beach. Our ranch was 5 miles inland. And where I loved to hang out sometimes was the bookstore, and it was called Ocean Song Books. And one day I'm driving down the freeway, I go, wait a minute, Earth Song Ranch, there we go.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it all kind of goes together.
Very cool. Well, I'll look forward to Jessica and I are talking to her horses next week or this week, sometime very soon. So that should be fun.
I will see what they tell you or not.
Yeah, that should be super fun. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thanks. And I hope we do it again.
Same here. All right, bye.